Well, last we left off, you guys exited your diner. You had found a potential meeting spot that the Fisher King wanted to meet up with. You only received a text that said meet at the Rendezvous, capital R Rendezvous. You found a bar in Seattle called the Rendezvous. You started heading that direction. As you leave the diner, you get a text from Mags, your operator. She says, vehicle incoming. And a moment later, as you turn the corner around the diner into the parking lot, you find an Audi, black, kind of an older model. Something that's like nice enough to be useful, but not so nice that it gets like unduly noticed. Waiting for you in the parking lot, loaded in. You find the keys in one of your pockets, whoever your preferred driver is. Who do we think that is?
Do you have any driving?
I was just about to ask you the same question.
Ah. Um,
Oh, wait, could we download it?
Yeah, so like if you remember, you can download a skill at the start of each session, which is in both in game terms and in like real life terms kind of confusing, but each session means like each time you enter the matrix. So you entered in our previous session, we didn't talk about it, so you could load one up now if you like.
Hey, you want to drive?
Yeah, driving's one of those options.
Sure. All right, Dyno's gonna ask to download a driving ability.
Okay. So yeah, you feel that information kind of suddenly flowing into your mind. Your brain gets a little loud for a moment as all of this information is streaming in, and it's your internal monologue that's saying these things and kind of storing them in your memory. But it feels a little bit like an out-of-body experience because you're not in control of what your internal monologue is saying all of a sudden. It's just kind of spewing all this information about how to handle and steer a vehicle at high speeds, that sort of thing. Why don't you go ahead and roll a mind roll for me with no skill?
All right, not my worst. Let's see. 6.
All right, so yeah, as that information is streaming in, I guess something that would jump out at me that maybe Dyno didn't know before is that cars aren't very bulletproof. The most bulletproof portion of the car is the engine block. And so if you were to hide behind something while being shot at, that'd be where you would want to hide.
Oh, useful and ominous.
Extremely ominous.
And I just checked. So you put driving at a D10 for yourself now.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. I'll do that.
All right. So yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Dyno would cheerfully share that news with everyone. Oh, yes. Apparently the best place to hide is behind an engine block. That's useful, right? I'm not sure.
Hayden is just frowning.
Okay, are we planning on getting shot?
At about that moment, Haywire and Dyno, your phones give off a very specific tone. It's a single tone. You feel a single vibrate, and as you pick it up, there's kind of a red notification on it. This is not like a red alert emergency, but like in tiers of emergency, this is like a 3 or 4 out of 10 on the emergency scale. An incoming call from Maggie comes in. She says, as I was loading in that vehicle, somebody traced our signal. I'm going to go dark and get us to a safe location. So you won't have Overwatch for at least the next hour or so. And then she hangs up. So what that means is somebody was trying to trace your guys' location back to the hovercraft. She is now no longer looking over you. She's piloting the hovercraft to some safe location. And she'll get back to you as soon as something happens on that front.
And this might be a long shot, but I get a text back from Agent Gray after the "Hey, you idiots are scared of Idaho, right?" text that Dyno sent.
You don't actually, and this is kind of weird. This is maybe one of the first times they haven't been very prompt with their messaging. Yes, most of the time you will get a response in like a freakishly small amount of time, even if it's like a huge response. Like it comes in almost instantaneously, because that's how computers work. Their messaging would work that way. You don't get anything, and so that's strange to you. Like you don't even get a lie. Like that's the the level of like confused you may be about this. Like at least lie to me. Like not even a lie.
Interesting. Okay, Haywire will look at Dyno and say, "Focus on driving. We'll keep an eye out."
Good idea. Let's do that. And then Dyno just kind of like tries to coolly get into the car, but it's an Audi, so he doesn't really do a very good job.
A little awkward. So yeah, your drive is about 30 miles across the city. You're thinking maybe 30 to 40 minutes if you drive casually. You guys hop in. Haywire, are you a front seat person or a back seat person? Hadon kind of just waits to see what you do to figure out where she's supposed to sit.
By nature of keeping or keeping a lookout, I think she's going to take the front seat.
Okay. So Hadon crawls into the back seat and just kind of kicks her feet up on the like opposite side and like kind of uncomfortably lays her head on the like armrest of the opposite side of the car. Just kind of laying across the back seat as you guys travel. You both could roll awareness for me. Mind plus awareness. Because you would be keeping your eyes out.
15.
Sorry, is that a 15? Is that what you said?
1-5.
1-5, okay.
I got a 12.
Okay. So let's see here. So as you're traveling, you're just kind of, keeping a lookout for anybody following you. It is a major kind of highway that you're crossing here. There's cars that stay with you, but nobody seems to be paying much mind to you, especially. Nobody attacks you, to say the least. Although driving in traffic is an attack in a way. So you cross the city. Again, you're kind of late afternoon here at this point. You pull up in front of a bar called the Rendezvous. It's just down the street, is that 3 buildings from where you initially met with Hadon and filled her in on how all of this stuff works, at least a little bit. As you pull up, you see a sign out front. They have a couple different like rooms at the establishment. But the thing that you notice first and foremost is that they're closed until 4 p.m. So you have, maybe 2 hours to spare after your drive time before they even open. So it's kind of up to you what you guys want to do. You're just kind of parked along the street there. Fairly empty. There's people walking around and that sort of thing during this time of day. But as a bar, it doesn't open until at the earliest 4 p.m.
Can I text the number who texted me to summon and be like, "Hey, where are you guys?" I think it was Lou, right?
Yeah. Lou was the one that texted you. So you text that number. A moment later, you receive a text back, and it just says, en route, ETA 6 hours. And you realize at this point, like, oh, they were on leave, so their hovercraft is somewhere, in the Middle East, back at your settlement, and it's going to take them quite a bit of flight time, even to get nearby. One of the caveats to entering the Matrix is that you need somewhere that an access node has been like compromised. So clearly, to even get into the Matrix, they need to travel some distance to wherever that location is, and then try to enter as close to Seattle as they possibly can. Again, that's a whole nother thing that needs to be accomplished. We'll get into that later if we end up going to the Metaline Falls area. You guys will be working on compromising some phones in that location. So yeah, there's some logistics that need to happen for them to get to you, basically. So you have some time to spare.
Typical of him, summons me all in a huff and he's not here. Hey, Wire, what do you want to do with our time?
How much time do we have?
Apparently 6 hours.
We can wait.
Hadon just says, here, just on the street.
Is there a place you'd prefer?
She's kind of like looks around the street. I guess we could literally look around the street.
Technology.
Wasabi. Do you think that's maybe like a sushi place? Let's find out. Hadon just kind of points and she says, I didn't eat earlier because I actually didn't realize that we still had to eat, but I'm like actually kind of hungry now. Could we? And she just points to the wasabi place, assuming that that's a sushi place.
I don't really see the point in eating around here, but all right, fine, if you want.
So she just gets out of the car and like kind of awkwardly heads in.
Okay, Haywire is going to follow her.
Yeah,
I'll take up the rear, but looking out for anyone if there's anyone noticeably following us.
Okay. Yeah, you could go ahead and roll mind and awareness again. So you guys grab a table outside. She orders some sushi and just kind of awkwardly goes about eating it. And she says, like, after the first few bites, I think she, like, kind of expected it to not be very, like, pleasureful anymore. But then she's, like, actually enjoying it. And she kind of, like, mid-bite, like, sets her chopsticks down and is like, so you guys don't eat in here anymore. Like, we eat out there, but I got hungry in here. And we went to a diner earlier where, like, Virgil, he, like, ordered food and coffee. What's that about?
It's almost as if you don't like the nutrient gruel. Oh, that's upsetting.
She just kind of nods and is like, yeah, it's not ideal. Could you fry it? Would that make it better? Is there a lot of fried food in the apocalypse? Because if not, I'm going to have to, rethink this whole thing.
I'm not sure we have access to the oil required for that.
She kind of like frowns and nods, and it's like, yeah, that makes sense.
But getting back to your question, we are still technically, air quotes around technically, human. Just we're not still part of all of this.
And she kind of like looks down at her like water and is like, because Virgil mentioned that he has like a feeding tube, right? So like clearly he can get dehydrated out there if he doesn't drink water. But does drinking water in here like stave that off? Like, how does that work?
Matrix is a construct of your mind. Your body is used to being hungry and thirsty, so it will tend towards what it's used to.
She kind of like nods. And she says, and he said something about like programs live here. Do they need to eat? Why would they do? Why would you make a program that needs to eat? Just seems
Honestly,
like-
most of the programs I've seen are rogue, so who even knows?
and she just like, you see that she starts like watching people that are walking past on the street, like trying to tell if they're a real person or not, but they just look like a person. Like there's no tell. Like she says, like if all of this is like a program, why, like there's so many unnecessary things. Like why would people get sick? Why would, like, how does that help?
I heard apparently one of the original versions of the Matrix was
Oh,
My
puppy.
girlfriend just got home, I think.
my monologue, but puppy.
Let's go on a quick break.
No.
My girlfriend just got home, and we actually just got new locks put on our door, so I'm wondering if she doesn't know how to open it. It's like a keypad.
No.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, we're back. Girlfriend has been assisted inside. Dog is no longer freaking out.
All right, I shall continue the Matrix monologue.
Lovely.
Oh.
This entire
all
game
right.
is just that.
Oh yeah, no, that's for the next 3 hours. So anybody listening to this, buckle up. All right. So apparently, so I've heard, once upon a time, the Matrix was perfect, like unnaturally perfect. And the human mind, remember, plugged into all of this, rejected it. So this one, I can't remember what number we're on, or I wasn't listening. Apparently, this one needs to be like this to keep everybody inside from questioning the shadows on the cave, as it were.
She kind of like nods and says, okay, yeah, I mean, like, I fully expected the apocalypse to happen, so, like, I guess that makes sense. It just seems like if your goal is a computer program, like, you're just gonna add error, like the ability to error. I don't know. Like if their thing is efficiency, it doesn't seem very efficient. I don't know.
I wouldn't have thought harvesting the human mind was very efficient, but
Or that we make good power sources.
And then she's like thinking, like, yeah, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense either, because like I don't think of humans as very good batteries or like energy generators. We're pretty inefficient ourselves. Like, how much energy are they putting into feeding us? Like, that's awful. She just like is like staring at her sushi now.
Hayden, just eat the sushi. There's no need to question the morality of the sushi. Trust me.
Yeah, and so she'll pick her chopsticks up and start chewing on it again. And she's like, I just do like sushi, though. This is the problem.
well, then eat it while you can.
And then she like thinks about it some more. And she's like, but do I like sushi because they want me to like sushi, or do I actually like sushi?
And then that creates a consciousness loop that, trust me, you do not want to go down.
And then she's like, do you guys have things from like your lives that you can't give up? Like,
Like I've ever asked that. Haywire, do you have anything like that?
I didn't have a life.
Hayden's like, huh? And then she like looks at Dyno, and Dyno, what's your face look like?
Oh, he's just as unreadable as a statue. He's like, oh yeah, no, that's something I
And
knew.
she like looks back and she says, we're not just gonna move past that, right? That's like we're gonna elaborate on that one, right? Remember, I'm new.
If Haywire wishes to, they may. I don't. I'm just okay with moving on.
She's like, no, it's consent is important. You're right.
Did you want to know more? It's not exactly
She
a
like nods.
fun story.
She's like, we're in the apocalypse, man. Not fun stories is all we have.
These people in the apocalypse? Oh no! Now I'm doing it. Uh-oh.
Well, I suppose for as long as I can remember in the Matrix, I was in a facility where I was experimented on.
She's like,
And
when
then
you said facility, my brain immediately went to like those trampoline parks. But it's clear that that's not what it's. I'm just gonna shut up now. And she just like looks at her sushi again.
Haywire just stares at her for a second and then continues. They were testing a group of children like me who had an unstable connection to the Matrix, capable of doing things like you've seen.
Yeah, she kind of nods and is like, yeah, I think she just like pauses for a moment.
Yeah, Haywire would roll up her sleeves and show the ridiculous amount of scarring that she just has kind of everywhere.
And I think you see her like face fall because I think she's like realizing like she's had it, as far as like apocalypse life goes, she's had it pretty easy, it seems. And she like looks over at Dyno and then back to you and says, so I mean, did we do something about that, like eye for an eye type shit? Because we should, if we haven't already. Do we know where this facility is?
I do. Yeah, I do, right?
Yeah. So that was the North Wales Hospital.
Yeah.
That was called.
Okay. It's since been shut down.
She like nods.
Would Haywire have told Dyno that's where it was?
Yes, she would have. If he asked. She doesn't offer information usually.
Oh, he would have asked that because that's where his life went all screwy too.
Oh, then yeah. They would know that was a place that, yeah.
Yeah, it's shut down. I should know. The Strict Pack went there a couple of years ago.
Hayden just kind of gives you like a head nod, like, okay, your turn.
Right. This line, I was an influencer. He says, kind of like whispering it, like he's ashamed of it.
She just kind of makes like a gagging face.
Don't. I've heard all the jokes before. Our thing was we went to abandoned areas, like the North Wales Hospital. Except in this one, we found a glitch, if you will. My theory had something to do with whatever unspeakable things they were doing to Haywire and those such people. Long story short, we tried to video the problem in reality, and agents do as agents did, and all my friends were killed pretty much. I only escaped because I wasn't in the building at the time.
She just kind of like lets out all of the air in her lungs. She's like, because now it's like, of the people in the apocalypse she knows, you're 2 of 3, and like the other is Mags, who's older than you guys. And so now she really is for sure. She's like, oh god, I've had it easy. Like, that's so horrible. She says, like a glitch. Like, what do you mean? What were you filming there?
To our minds, reality was wrong. When we hit a certain spot, reality just did not exist. I mean,
she's like,
our whole. Oops, sorry.
She's like, do you get the sense that this is all like doesn't make any sense? Like, why would they let just glitches happen? It's like they don't have control of their own thing. Like, I don't know, when you showed me that training simulation of like men in suits popping up, I got the idea that like they knew how things worked and were good at things and were competent. But it seems like they're maybe not, or not all the time.
Do not underestimate them.
And sometimes it's cheaper just to ignore it. Have you ever heard someone babbling about Bigfoot?
She like kind of frowns and is like nodding.
I mean, Joe Schmo on the street, Dyno says, pointing over at someone at a table nearby, they probably don't know what's going on, and they're better for it. As long as they keep doing their thing, the Matrix ignores them.
She kind of nods and is like, well, why don't we, like, I don't know, you guys implied earlier that we couldn't just tell everyone. What's that? Like, we can't just tell people?
I wouldn't call that a fun experience, would you?
Yeah, she kind of nods and is like, yeah.
Also, I don't know if you've seen what we're working with. We don't have enough. I mean, I'm pretty sure the real world could not survive if we released everyone.
Yeah, that kind of hits her. Like, she had never considered that, and she kind of sits back. And I think that probably, would be like a major shift in how she's thinking about things. Like, I don't think she ever considered that, like, yeah, the after the apocalypse, like, the Earth has like a limited capacity, quite literally. And she kind of nods and says, like, yeah, especially in the last couple decades, I could see that there'd be some people not, I want to say not ready, but I think a better characterization would be not healthy enough. And she says, what do you do about, like, your family and your friends?
I keep track of my brother. I mean, he's still around. But I'm pretty sure if I went in his face and started screaming the world is a lie, he might not exactly respond well.
How could you, like, make him understand, though?
How? I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm wanted for murder.
What? She said, why do you should have led with that. I'm sitting at the table with a murderer?
I have
Hidden-
bad news for you.
You too?
Yes.
She just starts like fake sharpening her chopsticks. Like,
Which most wanted list is Haywire on again?
take your pick. I mean, I think like it's like you're at least on somebody's. Like of the most wanted lists that exist in the world, you guys are probably on most of them. I think like they would have like a consistent narrative, so it's, you know, if you're on multiple, you're wanted for like the same things, you know, or like, you know, you're on ours because you committed crimes here, but you also committed those crimes elsewhere, so you're also on that nation's or whatever.
Oh my god, how many people do they say Haywire's murdered? Jesus.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, like, you definitely walk with a little extra, like, pep in your step, because you never really know when somebody is going to happen to recognize you, especially nowadays. Like, you know, back in the day, somebody might have seen a picture on a TV show about, you know, the FBI's most wanted. But now it's like you can just literally Google FBI's most wanted, and there's Haywire's picture, and there's Dyno's picture. I don't know if you guys
Dyno's
are
wanted by Interpol. Let's say.
Interpol. I think like also there's a little bit of a like game that's played where it's like who can get highest on the list. Like,
Oh, I'm gonna say Haywire is probably gonna win that one.
yeah, and I think like Haywire, you kind of win by default most of the time. So people like kind of don't want to play the game with you. They're like, they don't want, because like you just win. Like when they're in the 40s, you're in the top 10 type thing.
Yeah, she's not good on playing games, so I think that's fair.
So then like Hadon kind of, after getting that explained to her, she's like, can I have one of your guys' phones? She's like, I didn't think to bring one.
Why exactly do you need a phone?
I'm gonna Google myself. How would you not think that I'm immediately gonna Google myself?
Do you really want to know?
I mean, yeah. If I'm like gonna get caught, want to know what I'm going away for.
You've been accused of bee murder.
Justin is thinking of those TikToks where it's like the guy has like a hive and he's like, anytime a wasp will like fly and he like hits it with a dog bowl or something and it makes like a big dinging noise because it's like a metal bowl.
Think that TikToker who saves the bees?
Exactly. That like literally, as I was writing this character, I was like thinking of that lady. Like, yep, it's perfect.
Hey, I've been called out to save the bees.
She's so calming, man.
I know. Now I'm gonna look around for the queen bee. Here she is. I'll put her in a clip to keep her safe.
Yeah, she has like the same phrases for the different
Yep.
steps. It's like so memorable.
Good stuff.
Next week on Saving the Bees, whatever she says.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Another week of saving the bees.
I think, yeah, Dyno would be like, all right, fine, here, just hand over his phone.
And so she starts Googling herself, and she says, well, so, I mean, like, did you say your brother, Dyno? Does he know, like, I mean, he doesn't know, but, like, does he know anything about you? Do, like, you keep in contact, or is that, like, a no-go?
I'm wanted for multiple homicides. No, my brother does not know about me.
Kind of nods. And then, like, after a moment, she's like, I don't see anything on here about me. I mean, just, like, the normal things that, like, were from before. She's like, do I have to, like, up my profile or something?
You piss off the machines. I'll keep going.
She just kind of slides her phone back to you. Or your phone back to you, I mean.
Oh, what else would you like to know, Hayden? I know you've got so many questions.
She's like, where do you even start? She just kind of makes this face.
Drop it. No.
Puppy's being a bad puppy right now.
Take my underwear.
Eating laundry.
Delicious.
She like knows that it's not a good thing to do, so like obviously she just wants to do it more now.
Oh my god. Such a bad sausage.
Yeah. She has a tude.
Ah, she's so cute. I love her.
She has her ears pinned back right now. She's in aerodynamic mode.
Sports mode.
Yeah, exactly. I think Hayden says,
Oh,
girlfriend wanted attention. They be like that sometimes.
so true. Women, am I right?
Yes, you
Yeah,
do.
freaking whammon.
Whammon.
Gotta love them.
Hashtag relatable.
Hashtag relatable.
She's a lovely human. She's a saint. Yeah.
What's she in charge of?
Patron saint of, I don't know, cleaning the carpet after wiener dogs. Patron saint of anxiety. Patron saint of going to college. I don't know.
I'm tired.
Hello.
So I think Hayden will just kind of ponder where exactly she wants to start asking questions. I think her next tact would be... So, I mean, if we can't tell people or, like, make them understand, what do we do? Why are we here?
General problem solvers, helping people who question, like you, figure out what to do, you know.
Kind of nods, and she like, how do you not just want to burn the whole thing down? Like, I don't know. I see people walking by and they're like having a good day, and I'm like, it makes me angry. Like at first I was like sad, right? Because it's like the world's over, and all of this stuff might not matter. All the people I know, all the things I did. But like now it's like it pisses me off. I just want to start burning things down.
Haywire puts a hand on her shoulder and says, "Rage is good. You need to channel it into something productive."
She nods and like I think she just like takes that lighter that she had and is just, she doesn't light it or like start lighting things on fire, but she's just kind of playing with it now, just kind of absentmindedly.
A good rule of thumb is don't do anything to draw our agency friends unless you need to do it.
She kind of nods. You know, I think she just kind of leans in, is like, you know, my generation and younger generations have been just being slowly sapped of fucks to give. Like, we don't have a lot of patience for this stuff anymore. It's the same problems over and over and over again, and it just feels like this is that. Just the same problem over and over and over again. How do you not just like burn the wheel to the ground? I don't know. It's also like frustrating because like there have been many generations, you were saying at this point, that have been like fighting this system and they haven't managed to, or like she just kind of shrugs.
Well, it's a good. I mean, we're still here. That's something. If we were annoying enough, I'm pretty sure the machines would figure out some way to get rid of us.
Kind of nods, but she's like, "Don't you want to be annoying? Like, don't you want to be annoying enough that they want to kill you? I know, like, you're already on, most wanted list, so that kind of counts. But don't you want to be a problem?"
The last time I was a problem, all of my friends were murdered. So
Yeah, no,
I try a more
her
subtle
face,
approach.
Her face falls again. She's like, "Oh, right, yeah." And I think this is like the problem of like, your world kind of changes when you become a soldier. And so like this is, war is a little different than like, screaming about politics on Twitter. Like it's easy to be like, I want to burn the system to the ground when you're watching C-SPAN, but now it's like people's lives. And I think she is gonna continue forgetting about that bit, that like, yeah, it's easy to be like direct action, let's start burning shit to the ground, but like people then actually have to do it. Like that's people doing that. That's not words on the internet anymore. I don't know.
It's good in theory to want to be a problem, but there are more subtle ways, is how I'll end my little speech there.
She kind of nods. And I think you see, like, she's not only dealing, like, with her own anger, but she's also now angry about your guys' stories, too. Because it's just, like, it's just mounting injustice after injustice. With no, I mean, like, I don't know how you guys feel about, the North Wales Hospital and stuff like that, but she feels like it was a unavenged, I guess.
Haywire will pipe up and say, perhaps you want to try a shooting range or something now?
She kind of nods and she says, they have one of those demolition rooms anywhere nearby? Where you just, like, they give you a helmet and a hammer and you just start breaking things?
It's called a tantrum room.
My God, is that what your generation finds fun?
She's like, if you've never tried just breaking things, it's actually pretty great. Tantrums are good.
I prefer melee combat myself, so...
I do too, but then again, that didn't go so well last time we tried that.
Kind of like nods, is remembering back to the fighting pit. I think she just kind of falls silent for the moment. And she's talked herself out, and she's got some things to think about. But I think you guys definitely sense, like, she's carrying a little anxiety in her chest at the moment that's kind of energizing, but, like, it has nowhere to go. She doesn't really know enough to do anything at the moment.
We have 6 hours. Perhaps we should do some training.
She just, like, gives you a thumbs up, like, yeah. Point me where you want me to go.
Yes, Haywire, where do you want to go?
God, up to me.
Is your training idea?
Yeah, and the limitation at this point is, like, you don't have mags, so, like, you could, train in the construct if you could get Maggie to get you out. but you're kind of limited to the real world at the moment. Or
Any woods around
our real
here?
world. Yeah, I mean, kind of back the way you came. Sure.
Great. Haywire's got more than enough weapons to spare if we want to do that.
Could always just go looking for trouble somewhere. Fight some pedestrians. Do some grinds.
It's like a video game.
Yeah. Gain some XP on some wild
Let's go
boars.
find a mob boss out in the street.
No. Let's start just a massive punch 'em up in the sushi restaurant. Just start punching random people. See what happens.
That's a great idea.
The GTA, like, were we talking like a single star, 2-star, like?
Helicopters after us.
Enough stars to make the agents want to nuke the sushi place from orbit just to get rid of us.
And I'm just trying to think, like, you know, certain stuff is like stuff your characters know, but like we haven't covered yet. So there's like probably a lot of like operational security things you could teach her about, like how to communicate safely. You know, don't use like certain phone lines, or if you do, like, don't say incriminating things or like things that will reveal your location. There's like devices you can bring with you that allow you to communicate safely. That's something that we'll talk about, like if we set up a base of operations somewhere coming up.
Probably good things to teach. I think Haywire's mind always goes straight to combat training because she's like, you know, if any of those go wrong, you need to be able to fuck people up.
Yeah, I think Dyno would be like kind of cutting in with like, here's some operational stuff, but he's too worried about saying FK to really be any use, I think.
Sure. And I think like you could sit there and talk to her about like the phone specifically, because she did bring that up. And so moving forward, she will try to bring a phone along with her if she can manage that. But yeah, like I think a good piece of information is don't like call your family, don't call your friends, because they're going to be expecting that. And they're going to use that to track your guys' locations and that sort of thing. The not just blurting out the truth to random people on the street is also good. It could just straight up kill people. Like, if they're really in the zone and not willing to accept that truth, they will just literally die. Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of anything else that should be broached up front. I mean, I think
Say if you see anything agent shaped, run for your life. Just reminding you of that.
And I think like the other thing is, if you die here, you die like out there. But that's also something that she probably assumed. Like, that's just like a trope with movies.
If you die in the game, you die in real life, and it's real this time.
She's like, oh, like what is it, .hack, or like I guess Sword Art Online maybe is a more. I guess that's more like you get stuck in there. Do they die if they like die in Sword Art Online?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like a pretty big plot point.
Yeah, I knew like they get stuck in the game, but I didn't know if you like died if you die in real life. So yeah, she probably goes to anime for reference.
God, she's a weeb.
Oh, for sure. Aren't we?
Good.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, so you guys.
You're gonna tell us she's a furry. That her bee suit is a literal bee suit.
Like a stinger. That's her weapon of choice is a butt stinger, for sure.
Yeah, we have to give her a name. We have to give her a name.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's something I don't think that I really came up with. Actually, did I?
Buzzy.
Yeah, so she doesn't have any code name.
Buzzy.
As of yet. Oh, what happened?
Oh god,
the wire is now somehow. What happened? What?
One of the bots left because they were AFK for too long.
Fredboat, come back.
Fredboat being evil.
He's so lazy, bro. Fredbo, where'd you go, my guy?
Don't worry, I can just stay like this.
How do I get... I guess I have to play music to get him back. Come back, Fredbo.
Redbow.
So we can play a little of this.
Technical difficulties. Please stay on the line.
Hey, what do we look like now? We're back. Yeah, so you guys just can talk about that for a couple hours, stake out front. Eventually, you see an SUV roll up, and a series of figures get out that you recognize. You know, they probably come in quite late in the evening and roll into the rendezvous. You can follow them in and grab a booth with them.
Dyno noticeably deflates, but yeah, he follows after them.
Let's see here. So this is the kind of digs you're looking at. They have
Oh boy.
separate, rooms, a couple separate rooms that you guys can hang out in. But you guys grab a booth, grab a table. Over to here.
Wire in her beanie and sweats.
I wrote down some descriptions just so we can keep track of who's who. Sit down at a table, everybody grabs drinks. Let's see. Lou comes up and gives you guys hugs. He's kind of the warmest of the bunch. Dyno, he just kind of pulls you aside and says, it's good to see you. How you been doing?
Oh, great, Lou, great. One thing, kind of don't want to tell FK, figured I should tell you first. Apparently we were tracked. Someone was trying to track us in the real.
He kind of frowns and says, oh, is Mags taking care of it?
We think so. She's still moving the ship. Oh, wait, no. I think she's watching it. Yeah, she's got it.
He kind of nods and he says, well, I mean, if you haven't heard from her and she's not pulling you out, I'm sure everything's fine. And she knows what she's doing. Or
keep an eye out.
you're dead, but like, I think at this point, it's not worth worrying about, you know what I mean? It's kind of out of your hands. If she's not going to get you guys out, can't really do anything about it. You'll be fine.
Afterlife is a burlesque club in Seattle?
Sorry, what was that?
Wait, if I'm dead, does that mean the afterlife is a burlesque club in Seattle?
He says,
how would I expect
I
it?
sure hope so. And he'll just grab you by the arm and lead you over to the table. FK, he just gestures for Hadon to sit like across from him, and she kind of awkwardly sits down. And Haywire, I think this is probably the first time you've ever seen him. You've never met up with him in the Matrix before. And while you've met everybody else, either in the Matrix or like back on leave in your guys' settlement, FK never leaves his ship. So you've never seen the real him either. He just gives you a nod as you stand next to the table or sit.
Standing. And she, I guess, would nod back. It's like a...
And so Dyno, you know that like this is FK has already positioned this to be some sort of test. So feel free to jump in at any point, because this is one of those situations where NPCs are talking to NPCs. So I'll try to keep it short and sweet and loop you guys in as quickly as possible. And Hadon kind of looks to you guys as like, I I can tell that like something important is happening, but I don't know what that is. And so she's definitely looking for guidance whenever possible.
Right. Forgot that Dyno never actually explained the FK's thing. Oh, this is going to go well.
So, like, he lets everybody kind of get settled. Everybody gets drinks. Everybody gets like a halfway into whatever they're drinking, if they are. Hadon just gets like a some sort of vodka drink probably. I feel like that's her vibe. And FK kind of leans in. Dyno, you're expecting this. And Hadon says, kind of to almost break the ice because she's just feeling awkward. She's like, okay, well, so you're important, right? Like you're an important person or something? And he kind of smiles and is like, important is relative. He says, I like to think of myself as a teacher. And
Oh, is that what we're calling it?
he like kind of like nods his way through that, and he says, I do my fair share of learning, to be fair. It's not all teaching, but I think there are skills that are especially useful for our kind, and I like to make sure that we all have them. Or at least know about them. And I think
Dyno just nods.
Hadon says, like, what are we talking about? Are you gonna, like, teach me to fly or something? And he's like, no. And, Dyno, he looks over to you and says, I gave you the test once. How did, and he just asks you, Dyno, like, how did you feel after the first one?
Dyno just kind of grumbles. Accomplished. Fine. It was a good test. It made me feel better.
He kind of nods and says, well, I guess we can just kick it off then, he says. And Hadon says, well, okay, what's a question? Is it like multiple choice or? And he says,
Oh god.
he says, the important thing is that you ask righteous questions. And then he kind of pauses and says, one must only ask the righteous question. And Hadon just kind of like is sitting there staring at him, like, and she looks over at you like, what the fuck does that mean? She gives you like a look.
Dyno is pounding a can't trust a man with gossip cocktail right now. He is just trying to avoid this.
And she says, okay. So I'm asking the questions. And she just kind of like looks around at everyone, and like all of them are just kind of pleasantly smiling. So she's like getting nothing from them. And she just kind of like starts looking at him and like is like looking around and not really sure what to ask about or like what the point of all this is. So she just kind of zeroes in on him, and you see, like, I think, Haywire, you probably recognize that like this fire that had built up at the sushi restaurant kind of is now directed all at him. So she starts going at him with like a very
Oh no.
critical eye. And so he's a mid-30s man, kind of light brown skin. He has, long black hair and a beard. And so she's kind of taken all that in. He wears kind of flowy garments. nothing too like extravagant. Like you wouldn't think twice like watching him walk down the street. He looks like a normal dude, but it's more flowy in his style. And she kind of zeroes in on the cane he's carrying. And so you can see it coming, Dyno, and it's almost like a train wreck. You know she's gonna ask about it, but she's like thinking about how to, like what tact to take. And she says, okay, well, you carry a cane. That's weird, right? Because like in here we look like whatever we want to look like, right? So like why do you have a limp? Like what's that about? And he just kind of nods and is like it's funny because he's genuinely like pondering that question. Like he's not even a little bit mad about it. And he just kind of nods his way through it. And then that just doesn't say anything. And so Hadon is like, so that means you have an injury, but you're choosing to have an injury. And he kind of like looks at her and nods. And then she just kind of like looks at her own hands and is like, what, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you? And she looks over at you guys like, we were just talking about this. Like that's not useful. Why would you? She's just like, doesn't know what to think about that.
Dyno's making the active like hand across the throat motion, like no, stop.
And she says, but you guys were telling me that like we look like our ideal selves, right? And we bring with us anything that we want. And then she like is gesturing over to him, like, and he has an injury, like that's your starting equipment is an injury. That's your like ideal self is injured, and he's like still just kind of like lips pursed, like
I know. Stop her.
Oh god.
And she just
Dyno's just like throwing back another house cocktail, trying to get the energy to figure this out, but he's gonna let her continue for a bit.
And I think she just kind of gets in a circle there of like, and it's the same circle that we saw at the sushi restaurant. It's like, okay, decisions are being made, but they don't make sense to her, and like she can't fathom why he's choosing to have an injury, he's choosing to have a limp, and that's his ideal self. And she gets to this, okay, so his ideal self is injured. And so for a moment she like accepts that as like, oh, that's kind of heartwarming. So you see that on her face. But then it goes back to like, but that's not a useful, like her understanding of disability or however you want to put that is not one that, like that's not ideal. You wouldn't want that. And then she's just in this loop. So she's kind of at a loss after a moment. There's this awkward pause hanging over. And FK is still just nodding. Again, not even the least bit angry about any of this. And she says, so like what? Like I asked like a couple questions, and she's kind of asking him, but also Dyno. Like I've asked a couple questions. Were any of those the righteous question, or?
Not the point. If I told you what it was, what's the point of asking the righteous question?
Hayden kind of like, I think she's still so in this loop that she doesn't even really process that, Dyno. And FK kind of cuts in and like, and just kind of puts his hand out and is like, in my opinion, you've asked the righteous question many times over already. And he says, to you, Dyno, more than her. Yeah, I guess how would he say that? I think he doesn't say anything. He just gives you like a nod, and to you kind of interpret that nod to be a good nod. Like if he's giving a thumbs up as a nod, that would be a thumbs up.
Oh, thank God.
And then Haywire, can you roll a mind plus awareness for me really quick?
I sure can. I sure
Hadon is
can.
just like, she grabs her drink and is like sucking on it, and then like leans over to you, and I think she visibly sees that you have like a sigh of relief, and she says, "I don't really understand anything that just happened."
I got a 15.
So Haywire, what you see, sitting, at this table, there's a candle in the middle of the table. And I think out of 15, the thing that first draws your attention in that direction is, I think you're used to those little fake, like, electric candles that are like a little, like light in like a flame-shaped bulb. And much like fluorescent bulbs, I think you're used to those just like shitting out as soon as you sit down near them. So
Yeah.
first you look there for this electric bulb, and it's actually a real candle, and you see that setting next to it is like the fake one. So there's like a fake candle and a real candle that's lit, and Tilly, she's the old woman sitting at the table. She leans over to you and says, "I know that you have trouble with those electric ones, so I brought my own." And she like points at the candle and like gives you a little touch on the shoulder. Like she brought her own candle so that you could feel comfortable at the table.
It's so nice. Haywire nods and says, "It is nice when the lighting isn't mad at me."
She just smiles, like she doesn't know what you mean, but she's like, "Oh, that's nice, sweetie." Like, and then with this kind of paying attention to lighting, all of a sudden, you look up at the back wall behind you guys, and the lighting is kind of casting the Fisher King's shadow of like his kind of upper shoulders and head like against the wall. But what you notice is it's growing almost larger than it should be, and it's larger than the rest of the shadows on that wall. And you start to notice that the head of his shadow isn't following the movements of his body, it's scanning the rest of the bar. And you get that there's some sort of weird perception thing happening here, that like his shadow is watching bar patrons while FK is doing other things, and you're like, well, that's fucking weird. That's not how shadows work.
Typically. People are weird, though. It's got a weird shadow.
A bit odd, yes.
And I also think probably like you're used to watching shadows because your shadow does some sketchy, shady shit every once in a while. But this one seems to not be like trying shenanigans. It's just watching bar patrons like a hawk.
This bitch has tamed his shadow. How did he do that? Alright, I'm gonna have a talk with him afterwards.
So, FK just does some sign language to Jean, who's just standing behind him. She starts to walk around the table, and Tilly gets up with her and says, "Oh, dearie, why don't we go get you another drink?" And they kind of grab Hadon by the arm, and they head towards the bar to grab some more drinks for everyone. So they kind of wander off for the moment. And FK and Lou kind of slide over to sit in front of you, Dyno. And FK polishes off his glass of wine that he's drinking. He puts his cane on the table in front of him. And just says, "Well, that's a good catch you got there. You guys did a really good job on this one, I think."
Can I tell if he's being serious?
Yeah, wholeheartedly serious.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, I think you know enough to be like, if he wasn't like excited or impressed, he would just tell you. He'd be like, eh. And to even just like further cement that fact, I think he even leans in and is like, "I want her on my crew. Name your price. I'll I'll match it.
I don't know if I speak for Haywire, but I don't believe Hayden's loyalty is currently for sale right now.
He says, "Oh no, don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't mean it as just a transaction. She's, in my mind, impressive. I'd love to have her."
She wants to join you. She can. Take it up with her.
But we did find her, so there would be a finder's fee, of course.
Lou like smiles really big. FK says, "Listen, it's not. I mean, again, this isn't transactional. You guys are my friends. So anything you need, you name your price." He says you'd be doing me a really big favor if you at least put in a good word. I know that I can be a little, I don't know, intimidating at first.
It's impolite to talk about business, but I think I'll think about it. Haywire, what do you think?
Oh, what?
About putting in a good word with Buzzy?
But what we're calling her?
I thought we voted on that. Sorry.
Just, I'm not sure it's Spire's Fear or...
Fine, I'll workshop it.
I have no opinion on whether we tell her good things about the Fisher King. However, I will not be lying to her.
He just kind of nods. I wouldn't ask you to. He says, "We're not supposed to be here. We're supposed to still be on leave, but once I heard that you successfully brought her in, I had to get the shit moving. We have to go back here shortly, because, again, we're not supposed to be off, but we didn't even get fully recharged or restocked." He says, did you check in with Virgil yet? Has he got anything?
This and that. You know how Virgil is.
He kind of nods. He says, "Yeah, he's an excitable bunch."
Mind you, though, have you heard anything odd going on in the former Midwest, particularly around Wyoming, Idaho, in that area? I've heard rumors.
He kind of like his eyes narrow, but like in a intrigued way, and like I think he immediately picks up that there's more information on your side of the table than what's available on his side of the table. He says, "Well, it's odd days, but no, nothing spectacular. Why? Did you hear something?"
Not particularly, I'm afraid. You know how it is.
Of course.
Haywire will lean forward and look at the Fisher King and then point at his shadow and say, "How do you do that?"
He says, "Yeah, I actually think it's my first time meeting you. It's really good to meet you, Haywire." And he reaches out a hand just to shake your hand.
She looks at it for a second and then slowly reaches out her own hand and just
Shake his hand.
holds it.
I mean, he's got a kind of a rough hand, but nothing out of the ordinary. He just shakes your hand and takes his hand away. Let me see here. I had notes for this. And for a moment, he just kind of looks you over, and you actually do see that the shadow goes from looking at the bar patrons to just you. So it's actually just kind of matching him now at this moment. And he just kind of looks at you for a good long, 5-second period of time without answering your question, which is probably infuriating. And, let's see here. And I think he kind of looks from you to the candles, maybe up to the shadows, down at the drinks, and then like back to you. And he says, I think it's probably pretty useful, but I noticed that you look at things like you don't know what's real. And for a lot of us, and he kind of points across the Dyno and to Lou. He says it's easy to become jaded. You just look at things like, well, they're not real, because I guess they're not sometimes. And he just gestures back to you and says it's refreshing that you still look at things like you don't know.
I'd like to know how you do that with your shadow.
Okay, okay. Yeah, and I think you can tell he's dodging it, but we'll make this a roll now. So go ahead and roll.
Oh boy.
Persuasion and... I don't know, do you think this would be mind, or do you think this would be spirit for you?
I think this is spirit at this point, because she's very invested in
So go
this.
ahead and roll persuasion and spirit. Let me see what I want him to roll.
Okay, action, persuasion. Sure don't.
Let's go ahead and roll.
Oh, shit. Hold on. I'm putting this in Discord because this is insane.
Lost, hold on.
Oh.
Very nice. So a 12 exploded into another 12, exploded into a 2 for a 26. That's
Yeah,
very
Jesus.
high.
Yeah.
For comparison, I just rolled mind for him, just as like a baseline to see like, how resistant to sharing information he was going to be, and I rolled a 6. So many times over you succeeded, and he kind of nods and is like, he looks to you, Dyno, and is like, I can appreciate how blunt these instruments are. And then he kind of thinks about that for a moment, and he points over across the bar back to Hadon, and then points to Haywire as well, and is like, they do like to act like they're blunt instruments, but I'm not convinced. And he kind of looks back to you, Haywire, and says, well, it's kind of a confounding question, isn't it? I guess first I'd like to know, why would you want to learn something like that?
Shadow doesn't like to behave.
He nods and like kind of looks at his, and yes, he says, yes, yeah, they can be that way. What I find, or what I have found, is that oftentimes we have a little voice in the back of our head that likes to say, what's the word? I guess negative would be a word, but likes to just disagree, just for the hell of it, It's pretty hard to like get on the same side as that voice back there, that voice telling you you're not good enough. That's a really common one. Or nobody will ever love you. Those are the big ones, but it's more nuanced than that often once you really dig down. Talking to that voice, listening to that voice, and mastering that voice is what allows me to do something like that. He points back at the wall. Says there's many people inside of you, not like a schizophrenic type thing. I just mean genuinely, like the human mind, the human personality. It's faceted. It's personalities within personalities, identities within identities. Every person is a team of versions of themselves. And you need to talk to those people, and you need to listen to those people, and you need to get on the same team, on the same side. So I guess as step one, and he points to you again, Haywire, what part of you isn't on Haywire's team?
Dyno was just looking around for a second. Oh, right. I don't know. Every part? I don't know. Dyno. I'm confused.
Where to start?
So many things. Listen,
see,
FK, it's been a while since I've done these open-ended questions with you. I'm a bit rusty.
Fair enough. At this point, Tilly and Hadon come back over, and they just kind of sit a few seats away just to like give you guys some space. But they're back now. You see that, or I'm sorry, did I say that wrong? No, I didn't. Jean is still over at the bar though, trying to procure drinks. So I don't know, Haywire, he's just kind of looking at you.
Yeah, Haywire will look down at her hands and say, "Nothing in this matrix wants me to be here."
He nods.
I think that includes myself.
He says, I think a therapist at this point would steeple his fingers and say, yes, it does feel like that sometimes. But no, I know that in our case, that's pretty literal. And he kind of just taps the table in everybody's direction. He says, listen, if some were to Google the lot of us, I think most countries in the world have some sort of most wanted list. We'd all show up on those lists. So yeah, I when I say I know what you mean, you can take it as truth. He says, on the other hand, though, nobody likes to take medicine, right? Like nobody likes to need support. So it's not surprising then that, and he just points to, people around the bar, that, some of these people that will reject you probably really need your help. I don't know, that's probably a place to start. I think
Where
Lou
is frowning.
Yeah, Lou will cut in and he'll say, and you guys know that he was like a doctor in his previous life. He was a surgeon. And so he says, there's, quite a lot of times people don't want to accept help. And that can be really frustrating. Gods know they need it. He just smiles.
Is this still about me?
FK says it's always about many things. The funny thing is, like, we often feel like our situations are unique, right? Or we're the only one. But like, this problem is something that has always existed. Although it's easy to say, like, yes, Haywire, you're, I don't know what, I'll use something, a word that you would probably use, your affliction is unique, but like, countless people have had that problem through the history of humanity. They're quite literally not the first one. He just kind of shrugs.
Dyno just blinks.
She kind of frowns a little bit and looks down at my hand, or her hands, and says, "I am the only one I know of now."
He kind of nods. I think at this moment we'll like flash back In our first session, we went through a little bit of Haywire's history, and I think this moment is brought to mind for you, who are kept captive in a facility. But one of the subjects, I believe, is subject 56. Is that? I think that's the number.
That sounds right.
I'm not going to look through my notes, but I'm going to say 56 and just dub in what the correct number is later. Human memory, it's wishy-washy. So subject 56 kind of devised an escape plan. You guys compromised the housing of some large flood lighting, and then also compromised the bulbs. Kind of created a heat spot by accumulating heat and debris like dust or whatnot to blacken kind of the bulb, and then focus the heat of these floodlights, which is pretty considerable. And so one night there's a bunch of explosions. Subject 56 comes around with little kind of oddly shaped almost like tablets that he's sticking on the doors of your cells, and then kind of focusing on with your kind of brand of chaos, and these are exploding and then freeing captives. So you guys flee down a stairwell across a courtyard. Actually, let's go there just to have an idea.
Oh, hell yeah.
Let's see here. All the way. North Wales Hospital. That's the UK. Is that in the UK? I'm forgetting my own locations.
Yes, it is.
Let's see here. I think that's a good photo right there. So you guys are kind of fleeing through this courtyard here. There's kind of a central tower that you wrap around. You guys kind of stick to the shadows. These bulbs, you focus on them. They shatter. They spray kind of superheated debris from the internal pressure of these bulbs across the rooftops, and these catch fire. So the side portions of these buildings are now on fire. There's staff running around trying to put out flames. As you guys are escaping through kind of the central courtyard, you get to this what would be kind of the final section of the building before you're out to the front steps on the inside of this courtyard, of course. And as you and Subject 56 are leading a group of children towards this set of stairs, the doors are just blown off their hinges as a man in a suit, here in the middle of the night, still wearing sunglasses, steps out from behind these doors, clearly having kicked them off the hinges. He kind of looks at you two for a moment, and that's where our flashback last time ended. So we pick up here at this point. So it's you, it's Subject 56, and this agent all moving in combat. What you can see going into the start of this combat is the agent is reaching for the inside of his jacket. You're assuming there's a pistol under there. You've seen these, profiling through their jackets as they're watching over the subjects. So you're assuming he's going for a pistol and he's going to start shooting at you, or Subject 56, or some of the other children behind you. Subject 56 is kind of, looking in the agent's direction, reaching out with a hand, and he's going to be doing something. And I guess I'll have you roll an awareness and mind check just to see if you can gauge what Subject 56 is thinking about doing before you decide on your action.
All right. That's an 11.
11. So I think that you kind of give him a glance to your right and then back to the agent. You can tell that he's seeming to reach out his mind towards the agent's pistol, maybe to cause it to malfunction, or for him to just not be able to successfully shoot you guys. So that's his intention moving forward. What would you like to do?
What is in the room?
So you're kind of just in the open right now. You're in like a courtyard. There's grass under your feet.
Okay.
Yeah, there isn't much in the way of objects around you. You know that what you would have access to is maybe one of the objects would be like these small tablets. You know that Subject 56 has been reaching into his pants pocket to pull these tablets out. So that, I mean, like that's kind of the only object that's readily available. I mean, there'd be small rocks and things around you, but nothing that's like weaponizable necessarily. I guess out of 11, you also, just with the glance to 56, you didn't notice this at first when you were moving through the building, but now that you're kind of out in the open, moonlight shining down, he's very pale, like much paler than he was at any point throughout experimentation. His cheeks are sunken in, and he has like really dark circles under his eyes, kind of a reddish purple. And you saw him earlier in the day, like maybe 5 to 6 hours earlier. And he looked fine. He didn't look like this. So this is like a very, within the last, quarter of a day, a sharp shift has happened here, clearly.
All right. Okay, that's not good. I think out of options to really run or hide, she's going to try to attack. So, seeing this man, the only thing she really knows about him is he's wearing sunglasses, so she's going to try to shatter them to get shards in his eyes so he can't see.
Good choice.
Hopefully.
Yeah, okay. So let's see. I mean, I think that's obviously like a brawl roll, so go ahead and roll
Oh boy.
body plus brawl. I'll have to bring up an agent stat block really quick.
Alright. So my brawl's a 20, my body's a 10, so that's a 23.
Okay, yeah, that's excellent. And you do still have access to like your adversity die if you did want to use anything.
Interesting. Not currently, but yeah.
And 56 will just be rolling a pure mind roll to see if you'll be able to do this. Exploded. Yeah, okay. So everything kind of happens at once. The agent draws his weapon, and as he sees you moving at him, he's going to defend your action by just trying to shoot you. So he draws that pistol and is kind of drawing it in your direction. His eyes are focused on you. You kind of in slow motion see it start to level in your direction. 56 reaches out with his mind, and you can almost feel his fingers wrap kind of the back end of the gun. And as he pulls the trigger, the gun starts to cycle, but doesn't. It goes about halfway, and the round clearly failed to feed correctly, and so the gun doesn't go off. It's stuck there at half cycle. So as that happens, the agent has enough time to kind of roll it and look at it, and then start to look in 56's direction. And again, he's still 15 to 20 feet away, just kind of reaching out with his hand. And at that moment, you're on him, and you just start pummeling him in the face. And as you wanted, 2 blows shatter these glasses inwards, and then just kind of shatter the glass across his face. So you start to see blood kind of stream down the face. He kind of recoils from you and shoves you kind of back off the stairs, and you land next to 56. Even just a shove, it feels like getting hit by a car at like at 25 miles an hour. Like it just throws you back. He kind of recoils back kind of into the doorway with his arm kind of wiping at his face. And so that's the first round of combat. As far as moving forward, are you going to just try to flee past him, or are we going to continue trying to fight? What do you think?
She's gonna flee past him, assuming she can get 56. Otherwise, she's gonna have to fight because she wants to.
So yeah, he's in the he's scooping you up, like grabs you under the arm and gets you to your feet, and it's one of those things where it's like he's trying to get you moving while running himself, so it's not super graceful. You hear the other kids kind of coming with you. And as you two split and go around this agent and head kind of down a central hallway for what you know is the exit door, do you think the children would flee with you, or do you think like they would just attack this man, like this agent? What do you think would happen?
I think these children are probably mostly scared, like just in general. I don't think they have that much of attack left in them.
Okay.
After years of being in the facility. So I'd say they'd probably flee.
Okay. So
That's my thought.
I guess the only rolls that I'm gonna need then are from 56. And you clearly see that as he passes the agent, he does bump into him with his shoulder a little bit, but continues fleeing. But the roll is gonna decide if his tactic is successful. So what kind of roll would that be? Oh yeah, sleight of hand, obviously. So D6, 5. What would contest that? Maybe just a body. Natural 1. So yeah, you see 56 bumps into this agent as he goes past. The agent doesn't really budge at all, but it kind of throws 56 sideways, but he keeps running and catches up with you. And as you get, down this hallway, it seems like a really long run all of a sudden with an agent behind you. The hallway itself, I don't know what that distance is. Maybe, that wing is, gosh, maybe 30 feet or less. But it feels like a long time. You're counting in your head, waiting, for a gun to go off behind you or something like that. And you do hear, the sound of him wiping glass kind of off his face. And then you do hear him cycle his gun. And then this is at about the moment when you get to this front doorway. You look back, you kind of throw open the doors, which luckily are unlocked at this point. Children start to kind of flee through the doorway. And you just get a moment to look back. Again, this kind of slow motion gun is starting to level at you. And then you see a bright light shining in the agent's pocket, and you look to your right, and again, 56 is kind of reaching out with a hand, and you notice he's slipped one of these tablets into this agent's pocket, and it just explodes, and you don't see, any remnants. It just kind of explodes. It shatters the glass of the windows behind him, and just kind of fills the hallway with smoke. So you don't see if this has successfully killed this agent or not. You also don't stick around to find out. A moment later, you're kind of running down the front steps. 56 starts to stumble a little bit, and you kind of grab him under your arm to bring him with you. And why don't you go ahead and roll a medicine check? Just do medicine plus mind.
Okay, that is just a straight D4. I got a 2.
So as you kind of flee down the front steps here with 56, you could tell he's breathing really heavily, which is, expected. You're, making an escape, you're running, there's combat happening, that makes sense. But his breathing is like labored and wheezy in a way that isn't normal. And at a certain point, like, you get kind of down into this front kind of parking lot area with a gate. Kids start kind of fleeing over these gates. They're throwing kind of whatever shirts or sweaters they have to, like, over the barbed wire to climb over it without getting scratched up. And you have to help him over this fence. He starts to, at this point, like, not even be able to barely run, so you're having to hold him up as you're running. And you guys kind of flee into the countryside here. There's another gate to get past, but it's fairly easy to go through the hedges or go over these small walls. And up until this point, it has been a very coordinated effort because everybody has had a direction to flee in. But at this point, it just opens up to countryside, so kids just kind of start fleeing in whatever direction they can. And it's impossible to get anyone to listen at this point. So you just kind of flee with 56, and whoever will follow along with you. And we'll leave that there for now. Unless there's something you would like to, talk to 56 about at this point, but it's not really also a time for conversation.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be talking much. I think we're going to be saving our breath for getting the fuck out of here.
Okay. Yeah, that rings true for me. So yeah, you guys just flee into the countryside. And you start to kind of think back, and I think, like, there's an element of this story that this story probably plays in your head a lot. But over time, like, certain details seem to change. And while, like, the core idea for sure, like, sticks with you, and, like, certain things like the smell of the fire or the smell of these explosives, like, stick with you, little details change over time. And so, you just have this moment as you're snapping back to reality, quote unquote, that you're like, I kind of can't remember what his face looks like. Like, you definitely remember the paleness, the sunkenness, and that sort of thing. But you're like, gosh, is my, like, memory of his face accurate? Like, if you were to try to find 56 these days, you're not really sure if you'd be able to recognize him, especially since it's been quite a few years, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
But, like, even so, even if he, was the same age, you're not sure if you could remember what he looked like.
Well, that definitely hits Haywire like a truck. That was her first friend. Or like a brother, honestly. So I think she's just gonna turn around away from the table.
Go ahead and roll on mind and awareness for me.
Yay. Awareness. It's an 8.
Okay. And then Dyno, go ahead and roll the same thing for me. Mind and awareness.
$16.
16. Okay.
One of us is good at this.
So, Haywire, what you see is Jean is at the bar, and she's signing back to the table, like, clearly trying to grab someone's attention. Tilly kind of leans across the table to Hadon and says, "Oh, dearie, my eyesight isn't as good as it used to be," and she has, like, glasses hanging around her neck. She's kind of, like, using these reading glasses to try to make it better, but she's like, "Can you show me what she's..." And she points over to Jean. And so Hadon kind of awkwardly, like does the sign, but closer up so that Tilly can see. And Tilly kind of looks over to you guys at the end of the table and says at kind of a lower volume, says, I believe there's someone at the bar that's been looking at Haywire. And Haywire, at this point, you look in the direction of the bar, and instantly the Fisher King's shadow kind of snaps onto the front of the bar, and FK says to you quietly, Haywire, he says, I apologize, I didn't see him. He was... And then there's a pause, and he says, I was just excited and wasn't paying attention. It looks like there's a gentleman at the bar. He's been watching you from the mirror behind the bar, and you kind of give it just like a sly glance, and you can see there's a man. He's in a suit. He has a beer in front of him, but he is every so often glancing at you through the mirror behind the bar, and just glancing in your direction. He seems to be sitting, like, next to a woman at the bar, and he's, like, kind of entertaining conversation with her, but, like, it's clear that this looking at you through this mirror is taking, like, the majority of his, like, attention. And so the woman he's with is kind of put off, but, like, she's still trying to engage with him. Dyno with a 16, you give him a glance. He reads like law enforcement to you, probably a Fed. You don't see an earpiece or any like mic in the sleeve of his suit, so you think he might be off duty. With a 16 though, you do know he is armed.
I'll pass that along to the group.
FK kind of immediately goes into planning mode, and he says, well, I think the man at the bar has made haywire. It seems like he's awfully concerned with her. I don't think the rest of us should stick around very long, just in case he starts, checking out who we are. So sorry to cut things short. We'll go out the front. We'll let you know if there's a perimeter, and we'll go from there. And he just gives you each a nod and gets up and starts limping his way towards the front door. Jean kind of watches them move from the table to the front door, just to see if anything's going to happen. The man definitely tracks that this is happening, but he doesn't move from his position, and he still is just looking in Haywire's direction. As they get out the front door, Jean just gives you guys a nod and then follows. And then Hadon kind of skirts the table and sits next to you, and is she's like having an adrenaline dump, clearly, so you can see that her glass is shaking, so she's scared, but also she can't help but she has this smile that's fighting her face, she's trying to act natural and act like this is scary, but also she's having a little bit of fun, maybe. A moment later, Dyno, you get a text from Lou. He says, no perimeter, we're bugging out. I say take the back door, through the back alley, and just get the fuck out of there.
Haywire will look over at Hayden and say, ready to join the watch list, Pyro? And start moving out of the room.
So yeah, Dyno, I guess the question is, do you guys just run, or do you try to head for the back door casually? What's the plan?
No, we need to be subtle. If we bolt for the door, he's gonna try to tackle us, so
I'd like to see him fucking try. Why don't you guys go ahead? Haywire will stay behind, and then as soon as you guys get to the door, she'll bolt. About that, huh? Or should we all move together?
I think if we move together, we seem a little less conspicuous.
Alright, let's all move inconspicuously towards the door.
Okay.
My plan's more if he does follow us, like Dynos, he'd be like, hey, notice me, don't notice Haywire as they go for the door.
Sure, yeah. And then, I had a question, but, are you trying to break line of sight with him? Because there's people that you could break line of sight with. You could head into the kitchen. There's a couple different options. Or are you guys splitting up? Are you sticking together? What's the plan?
I think at this point we should probably stick together and try to break line of sight without, getting too many civilians involved. So maybe not going into the kitchen, because people would probably try to stop us, I'm guessing.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so yeah, go ahead and roll. Let's do a body roll for everyone, and then a performance roll. So performance plus body, I think.
That was just body.
Samesies. I got 8.
Got a 2!
8. Hayden got a 7, and let's roll an insight for ye old detective. My dice.
Haywire can punch someone's sunglasses like no other. But
So that's a 10.
walking?
10 for Mr. Fed. So I heard an 8, and then what was Haywire's?
I got a 2.
2. Okay. So you guys the instant you start moving, and even kind of just turn towards an exit, he places his beer down. One hand kind of shoots inside the jacket of his front jacket pocket. Dyno, you're assuming that's he's going for a phone. I think Haywire and Dyno go ahead and roll insight. So roll insight plus mind for me.
I have to do well on this because I'm not going to. Yeah, I got a whole 5.
I got a 10.
10. So you got a 7. Dyno, it's clear to you that he knows he's outnumbered. He's not. I guess he may give chase, but he for sure is calling for backup. So in motion, he's kind of turning now to face you guys, not looking in the mirror anymore, and he's going for a cell phone to call somebody.
Okay, I have a ridiculous plan. How crazy do we want to do this?
Right now, we only have a Fed after us. I'm trying not to get a man in a suit after us, so...
Oh no, I was more just gonna go up like, hey bro, how are ya? Hey! And kind of like act as the distraction while Hadon and Haywire go for the door.
Is it pizza time again?
Yes, it is
I'm
pizza
here
time
to
again.
deliver a pizza for Agent so-and-so.
Oh boy. If you think you can pull that off, if you think that's what Dyno would do, then you go for it. I'd say that's a terrible idea, but...
And like I said, backdoor, like FK is just fucking bamf it. Like, go for the car. Yeah, I guess the one caveat is you haven't been in contact with Maggie. I'm gonna say that during the 6 hours, she definitely would have texted you. So you get a text that all is well. She killed the trace before they could find your guys' location. Just to be safe, she egressed to a safe location, and she's just waiting for you guys. So as far as imminent danger out there, you guys think you're safe, and she's available to get you guys an exit if you need one.
And I say we leave immediately.
My plan is to distract him so he doesn't call the cops.
What if he calls the cops? We just gotta go find a phone.
Oh, and I guess that's the caveat that... So, you have to find a compromised phone for an exit. So it's not just, any landline. It's, one that you guys have compromised with, a device. Because,
okay, do we know how many there are?
Yeah, so I think you have one within, a 5 to 10 minute drive. Definitely. I haven't, plotted every payphone I can find. Though I did research a ton of payphones in the Metaline Falls area. But, yeah, in Seattle, there's going to be a landline within 5 to 10 minutes.
How far is it if we don't obey traffic laws?
Less, 2.5 minutes. Well, so pending a driving roll, which we have downloaded, but is still a roll.
Is our Fed friend following us, or is he still standing at the bar?
So at the moment, he is turned and facing you. I think he hasn't moved to follow you quite yet. Probably because he's kind of still trying to lay low. He doesn't know that you guys are necessarily on to him yet. He just knows that you're leaving. So he isn't chasing you across the bar at this point, but he's in motion, potentially.
Did you just want to bolt for the kitchen, or?
I just want to bolt for the door.
Hayden's ready to bolt If you bolt, she's coming too.
All right, maybe. All right, you two. I still think you two bolt, and Dyno's just gonna walk out like hum-de-dum-de-dum, nothing weird. I don't know these people. Keep going.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, Haywire, you take off. Hadon follows you. Slide out that back door just as quickly as you can. Let's see here. I think I can actually show you what the back alley looks like. Let's see here. So let's go here. So you come flying out this back door here. Get you close. Hey, Google went down a alleyway, it looks like. So you come flying out that door right there. Can I zoom out? That door right
It's
there.
from the Alley to be Brutally Murdered in collection.
Yeah. So, you can either take a right or you can take a left. I'm assuming that your guys' car is parked somewhere here in this parking lot. So those are your options. You come slamming out that back door. Haywire, Dyno, what you see as you're just kind of casually walking for the front and kind of towards this agent, as Haywire and Hadon go into like full sprint, there's a moment where he's like, oh god, maybe I should just let this go. Maybe I shouldn't bring this up. He's like, in his phone is like ringing as he speaks, and there's like a moment of, god, maybe I just hang up this phone. Maybe this isn't my problem. His date is still like talking at him, like not picking up that something's happening. And so you're holding your breath like, oh, maybe this guy's just gonna give up. Maybe he's just gonna go away. And then he kind of sighs, keeps calling, and he starts running after them. So is there anything you want to do as he's running across the bar, kind of in your general direction?
I don't know what I'd have to roll for this, but I think Dyno would try to like pretend he slammed into him, like, "Oh, sorry,
Okay,
bro,"
sure,
and like
yeah.
basically run into him.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and
You're gonna get your ass arrested.
yeah. So
Hey, we're in a bar and Dyno's drunk.
So is your intention to like physically prevent him from getting to them? Like that you're like, you want to knock him over kind of a thing?
Yeah, knock him over without like clotheslining him. I kind of want it to be like a subtle body
So
check.
I think, yeah, I think we'll do 2 rolls for that then. So first is a body plus brawl roll for me.
Oh, this is gonna be good.
And we'll just see if he can stay on his feet with athletics and body. Five for me.
Rip my dude. 31. My 12
And
exploded.
And do you have like a martial arts what am I calling it? Expertise as well? Is that a thing? So
yeah.
If you didn't already roll extra for that, it would be extra. So as far as getting this guy to the floor, not even a problem. But we'll see if he buys that this was like a fake, or was not intended to knock him over. So go ahead and roll deception and mind for me. Or I guess no, I think you could do mind or spirit for Dyno, because like his whole shtick is 1, social situations, but 2, escape. So this makes sense that it could be a spirit for you.
I think it'll be mine because he's more willfully like, all right, I'll use my intelligence, kind of like body checking.
Okay. 6 for me.
11 for me.
Okay.
God damn,
So
go
yeah,
Dyno.
you grab a drink off of a random table. You start to throw it back just so you smell extra like alcohol, and then you drunkenly stumble into this guy. You clip him just with a hip, and it's almost like an arm, like normally like a hip throw you would grab, but it's almost like an arm, like a handless hip throw. You just hip throw him without even like touching him with anything other than your hip. He flips and lands on his back just solidly on the ground, and he's just like, you just hear the air escape his lungs as he hits, and he hits like harder than maybe you even intended, and he's fully incapacitated for like the next 5 to 10 seconds as he's just like trying to catch his breath. I think in the process you actually spilled a drink on him as well, just for good measure. So he's like sitting there with drink all over his chest, just like trying to catch his breath. His date kind of runs over and is like checking on him and like panicking. She's very high pitched and on the verge of like a breakdown just from this one thing, and she doesn't know whether to go at you or to like take care of him. Haywire, as you get out that door, you hear this just as it closes. Dyno, go ahead.
Dyno's kind of like swaying a little bit. Like, oh, bro, I'm so sorry. I didn't see you there. Hey, you're the one who was staring at me earlier, weren't you? I mean, I know I'm great to look at, but it's kind of rude you were staring.
I think you're.
He's trying to like rile up the date.
The only response you can get out of him is like, have you guys ever seen that viral video of like the lady that's stomping grapes and she like falls out of the grape thing and she's just like,
No, but that sounds incredible.
There's just like a breathless groan. I'll show you guys afterwards. Just a breathless groan / sob, like as he's trying to catch his breath. He has no retort for you. When he does finally stand up, Dyno, he doesn't even like really remember that you're the one that's been sitting with her all night. You get out the front door and can meet up with them at your earliest convenience. The roles were good enough that he doesn't come back after you like, hey, you're the guy that was. He like is just over his head. He does eventually go for the back door after he regains his composure. At that point, I'm gonna assume that Haywire and Hadon are gone, though. Haywire, what's your plan as you come out into this back alleyway?
Okay, well,
street, I guess, is the decision.
Yeah, I'm thinking I would have Hadon get in the car and like try to wait for Dyno, and then Haywire's gonna take off.
Okay.
Through the alleyway, because I think
just to like lead him off.
Yeah. Okay. And she would tell. How far is the place where we met her, the cafe or whatever it was?
It's literally like 3. It's like less than a block down. It's like 3 buildings down.
It's kind of close. Does like Maggie have a way of knowing our coordinates in the Matrix?
Yeah, so she's like, she basically has my view. Like she knows that you guys are in the back alleyway. She would have access to like almost real-time satellites kind of a thing. So she would be able to see that you're in this back alleyway. If you wanted to give her some sort of like play call, like, hey, do this for me, you can call her as you're running.
Okay. Yeah, then she'll just point at the car and say, wait for Dyno and then get out of here, and then she'll just book it down the alleyway and start calling Maggie.
Okay.
Maggie?
So Hadon runs in that direction. As you come out, there's a little wiener.
Oh, it's a pupper. Oh, it's a pupper.
As you guys come flying out this back door, there is like a line chef or line cook that's like on break, and he's like out in the back alley like smoking a cigarette. And as you guys flee out this back door, he like sees you and is like, oh, that's actually for employees. And then he sees it like something's happening, and there's again this moment of like, am I gonna get involved with this? And he like looks at his cigarette and like he's in his apron still, and he just kind of shakes his head and goes silent, like, I'm not gonna get involved with this, whatever. And so Hadon kind of runs past him into the parking lot. You run down the other alleyway. Maggie picks up on the other side. How can I help?
We're gonna need a phone out of here, stat.
She just nods and she rattles off an address, and then like it's probably on the first floor, I would assume, of like a nearby like office building or something. I don't have one specifically in mind, but I'm sure there's one within a couple blocks. So you could either just start running there yourself, or you can try to meet up with the others. It's kind of up to you.
Haywire will start running there.
Okay.
But,
right.
Kind of, I guess, snaking her way around so it doesn't quite look like she's going there, but yeah.
All right, so go ahead and roll athletics and body.
Oh boy.
Let's see here. And because of Dyno's help, he's gonna really have to like beat you by quite a few. So he rolled a 5 to basically catch up with you.
I rolled a 17, so...
Okay. Yeah, so there's no chance. Like, he eventually comes out in this back alleyway. There's no trace of you. By that time, you're, out of the alleyway and a couple blocks over. You make it to that exit just fine. Dyno, what you see is that just in a few, moments after this guy starts to get up, you hear the sound of a car out front kind of slam on its brakes, and you look in that direction, kind of out the front, and you see the Audi, and you see a Hadon like looking out her window, trying to see if she can see you and like wave you over. She's driven around the block and is waiting for you. If you like, you can jump in the passenger seat and you guys can flee together.
Oh, no. Dyno's taking the driver's seat. He downloaded that program.
Fair enough. So you slide into the driver's seat. She kind of like awkwardly climbs into the passenger seat without getting out. And then just go ahead and roll me a driving roll. Plus, let's do... I think, again, this is spirit or mind for you. Just because, I don't know, it seems like that fits. Again, I think your thing is like escape. And then did you have like that special ability that was like you can add an extra dice to escaping?
That's the first I'm hearing of it, but yeah, I'd imagine I would, because he's a jumper.
Sure if that's so that's what I mean. Like you get so you can add an extra dice. I think like performance would be a fine option here. So you could roll mind or spirit, which would you prefer. Add your driving dice to it, and then add your performance dice to it. My puppy is fighting the cat, and she likes to howl as soon as she loses.
Oh, poor puppy. It got too big.
20.
20, yeah. So, you know that this is like an escape, but at this point, it's not one that merits like insane driving. I think you you drive a little bit faster than you should just to get your money's worth with this skill download. But you know that at this point, like you've gotten out cleanly. There's nobody following you. You throw a couple extra double backs just to make sure nobody's following you. Nobody's following you. So you end up at this office building. Haywire is kind of hiding in a nearby alleyway, waiting to see if you guys get around. You're on the phone with Maggie. She's kind of walking you through where they're at because she can, see via satellite feed. So you guys meet back up. You can leave the Audi kind of anywhere in a parking spot. She can, download it basically so that it disappears. But you have an office building. You can see kind of through the front window walls that there's kind of a secretary desk in front of some elevators, and you're assuming there's a landline there that would allow you to exit. You just need to get past this door. You do try it, it's locked, but it's one of those doors that's like mostly glass and the windows are glass, so you could just break it if you really wanted to, but I'm interested to see how you would go about getting into a front door. I think Hadon is like, yeah, let's bust, like, just shatter it out.
All right, calm down there.
She's like pumped still, like she's adrenaline dumped, so like she's almost upset that it went so smoothly.
So fiery.
Oh, all right, that reminds me. Hadon, what did you and FK's crew talk about at the bar?
That's a good question.
It's not the time to talk about this.
I think that she probably would just give you like a play-by-play that she was like, well, I don't know, they kept talking about asking righteous questions, so I just started asking them about themselves. So like she got the rundown that like why do you only speak in sign language, and Jean explains that she had her throat ripped out by a wolf in her previous life. So she doesn't, like, her vocal cords don't function anymore. She can only talk through sign language. And Tilly explains that she's deaf from years of not using hearing protection while, shooting and making firearms. She would have probably also said, like, oh, I was a seamstress, Tilly was, until her husband passed away. And after that, she, like, on her bucket list was learning about, like, guns. So she learned about guns, she started making guns, and then about that time is when she freed herself. So she was, like, fully a, 60-year-old person before she was freed. She crafts guns for them now, custom guns and that sort of thing. Yeah, that's probably about it. The quick life story details, spark notes.
Before Dyno goes wildly off topic like he loves to do, is there a lock on this door?
Yeah, it's just there's like one of those like bar handles, and then like you can see a little lock on it.
I could try to pick it if we want, unless Haywire, do you want to try something else?
Haywire is just glaring at him from the alley.
I think Haywire also, you're like, those glass windows look kind of shifty. They're looking in my direction, just expecting.
They always do.
You're gonna walk up and just blow them out. They're like, if they had eyes, they'd be glaring at you.
Okay, well now she's shifted her gaze to glaring at the building.
All right, Dyno's gonna try to pick the lock while this stare down occurs.
Go ahead and roll sleight of hand, and I think spirit would fit. Because again, this.
I rolled to scare the building.
This is in the but I guess body or really any of the abilities would kind of work for this. Spirit's the one that comes to mind, but I'll let you pick.
All right, since you said spirit, I did it first. I got an 8. My spirit is terrible.
Okay. So yeah, it takes you, a few minutes. You're maybe a little bit out of practice after coming off leave, but eventually you get it. And Hayden, as you guys successfully open this door, Hayden's like, I didn't think that lockpicks were like work. I thought that was like a movie thing. You got to teach me that.
Oh, I will. Trust me, when you did what I did, you kind of had to learn how to pick a lock or two. Where's Haywire? Dennis is loud enough to be heard, hopefully.
I think Hayden just kind of like shrugs and is like, she actually doesn't know where Haywire is. She like looks around.
As soon as the door is unlocked, Haywire will bolt from the alleyway and into the building.
Yeah. So as you enter Haywire and kind of walk across this entryway, the phone starts to ring. So you know that Maggie is on the other end, waiting for you to come home.
By the way, you all missed me being really cool in the bar. I'm very, very upset right now.
It's a shame. It's rare to see you be cool.
Hayden laughs out loud.
And then Haywire will go pick up the phone.
I think that, Dyno, you can take an adversity dice for that. You can pick how you respond to that insult, but I think that's worth it. Normally I reward like the person that says the funny thing, but because it was at your expense, I feel like it has to be you. I don't want to encourage just bullying, so Dyno, you get the adversity dice. Good job.
Bullying. It is a playful jest.
Fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Haywire is known for her jokes, and she
totally.
clearly didn't say that seriously.
For sure, that was in your backstory. I remember you mentioned how many jokes Haywire knows. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She actually knows all of them.
Really? Even the ones not written yet. It's like both.
It's like a clairvoyant.
Yeah.
Haywire knows the original Yo Mama joke.
All right, so one by one, you head across the, this office building, pick up the phone. You probably have Hadon go first just to make sure she gets out. She picks up the phone, and as she touches it to her ear, you just see her kind of warp and kind of twist and enter the receiver the receiver end of the phone, and it just kind of falls, hanging off the desk. You pick it up, place it back on the desk, and a moment later it rings again, and one of you can pick it up, or you can have a nice little verbal joust if you like.
That's up to
So,
Dyno.
Haywire, have you destroyed reality recently? Just asking.
Not on purpose. Although this building is going to be destroyed if it keeps looking at me like that.
Of course, they have those rectangular fluorescent lightings that office spaces have, and those are at the mention they start to just flicker just a little bit, and it's not like the flickers that were before. It's scared flickers. It's fear.
Hey, are you bullying the building right now?
Looked at me funny.
You see that over kind of along the wall, the shades kind of fall down,
Are we about to get into a fist fight with a building? Because I'm here for that if that's what happens next.
I didn't start it. And then she turns and glares directly at the doors and says, "But I will finish it." And then she'll pick up the phone, I guess.
Yeah, you disappear. I think Dyno is... As she disappears, you do hear that door lock itself.
Oh, God.
A moment later, that phone starts to ring again.
Before picking it up, he's going to send one more quick text to Gray. Oi, machine, are you still alive? We could kind of use your help.
Okay, go ahead and roll a persuasion plus mind.
Stop it. No. Bad girl.
Oh, who's a naughty wiener dog?
Oh, shoot, I cleared. 15.
15. So yeah, you send that text, and this time you do get a text almost instantaneously. It says, "Apologies, we experienced a communications interruption earlier today." I saw the dog fighting the cat on the video. Such a wimp. She instigates, but then the instant she is the least bit uncomfortable, she's like, and freaks out.
Yeah, was that a little yelp from her when the cat pawed her? Oh,
Yeah,
it's so
the cat he's really chill and doesn't hurt her, but what he'll do is he'll wrestle her and grab her around the neck and hold her down, and she's not being she's not in pain, she just can't get up, and that's when she starts yelping most of the time. I'm you're just losing, you can't just call foul as soon as you lose, bro. It's not fair.
Oh, she's so naughty.
Anyway, so yeah, Dyno, you receive a text back that just says, "Apologies, we experienced a communications interruption earlier today," and that's it. This may be signed Agent Gray, he probably signs all of his texts.
Oh my god, he would.
God, he's a boomer.
Yeah.
Dyno sends a quick text back. Right. We're going to be looking into the Idaho thing. Any information you have would be good.
Yeah, and then again, instantaneous response. It just says, "Idaho thing, elaborate."
Agent Gray.
Yeah,
Agent Gray.
It's like next line dash Agent Gray.
Yeah.
What? No XO? Boo.
No, definitely no.
Lots of love. Agent Gray.
P.S. Love you.
Next text. We hear through the grapevine that you all are avoiding a certain town in Idaho. Why is that? Dyno.
So there's like a pause of, maybe 5 to 10 seconds, and then a message comes in, and it says, I have not been made aware of any no-fly zones in the Idaho area. I will look into this. And then it just is signed Agent Gray again.
Cheers, Gray. Have a good machine life. Text me if you find anything. XOXO Dyno.
That one does not receive a response, unfortunately.
Oh, boo. He's no fun. All right, then he picks up the phone.
And I think we'll end there for tonight.
Oh.
And a lot of
Oh.